So, folks, let's give a round of applause for the first panel speaking. I would like to thank all of our sponsors, and please talk to them. It makes these things possible. And without further ado, Jeff Walton will be the lead-off keynote presenter.
Okay, so we're going to get into the keynotes here, and we're going to have some fun. So the keynote agenda. So I will start first. I will talk about why, how, and where. Ben will talk about conviction as a service. Tim will talk about setting sail with Satoshi and Sailor. And Dan will talk about the value of Bitcoin yield using the definition of an equity. So we'll cover a few different topics, and we'll have some fun with it. So first off, before I get into this, why are we here? How do we get here? And where are we going? I used to talk about reinsurance. People would run the other way. Now I talk about strategy and everybody wants to sit down and listen. So it's pretty cool. I think I found the right topic to talk about. So, I'm excited that I'm here. So why are we here? How do we get here? Where are we going? So I'm going to tell a quick story, and I want people to imagine this for a little bit. So the year is 1000 AD, and you're on a boat. You're on a Viking ship with Leif Erikson, right? 1000 AD, you have no technology, and you're sailing in this boat in the North Atlantic, and you're getting pelted in the face with salt water. You're eating whale blubber. You're, battling with the people that are, next to you, elbow to elbow, and you don't know where you're going. But the one thing that you do have is the stars. And what you can see here in the screen is the North Star, and you could see all of the other stars. This is a time-lapse photo of all of the other stars moving around the North Star. But the North Star and the stars were the only source of truth. So if you're a Viking and you're on this boat, the only thing that you've got that you can trust is what you see above your head. And we're going to call that True North. So that is how True North started. That was how I thought of this, is a consistent theme of truth. So moving on, I want to talk about the evolution of the retail trader, because this is a topic that I don't think a lot of people really know about. And I think it's, on brand. So I want to start with the early days of an equity. So the picture that you see on your screen, this is the 1600s. This is the Amsterdam Exchange that was founded and formed in 1602. So 1602, the first company that IPO'd was the Dutch East India Company. VOC was the ticker, founded in 1602, or IPO'd in 1602. They dominated global trade, and the shareholders developed the market. And so what's really important here is this exchange building. So you can see all the people in the middle. So when they IPO'd, or they issued shares, issued pieces of paper, and the only way you were able to exchange those pieces of paper is if you were in the exchange or you ran into somebody that also held those shares. And so, as you can imagine, the only people that held stock of this company was anybody that was close to this exchange in Amsterdam. So you think about who owns the stock assets, like, all right, less than 0.001% of the population owns these stock assets. And as we all know, that's continued to evolve. So fast forward to the early 20th century, right? Not much changed between, Amsterdam in 1602 to the early 20th century. And you've got the creation of the New York Stock Exchange, which was built early 1900s, I think 1906, something around there. And the bottom right hand image is an image of the trading floor at the New York Stock Exchange. So again, very similar to 1602, the people that knew about stocks were the people that were close to the New York Stock Exchange. There were very few companies trading, and the only companies that were trading, you had to be at the New York Stock Exchange to exchange them, or you had to know somebody that worked at the New York Stock Exchange to trade them. So who knew about stocks? Like, how did you know about stocks? How did you know about businesses? Well, you probably had publications like the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. But if you had a family member that lived in California or Kentucky or Minneapolis, you'd send a telegram, and the telegram would take time, right? They've got a limited amount of information. It took time to send it. It was a whole ordeal. And it was, there was a lot of, pressure, or it was harder to do. Right. So communication didn't flow very easily. Data and information didn't flow very easily. And it was pretty illiquid. Now moving to the 1980s, 1990s, the cell phone and the World Wide Web fundamentally changed the speed of communication, data flow, and information. So right now you've got an internet. You've got internet where data and information can be spread across the globe very quickly, very fast. And if you wanted to tell somebody about a stock, you could pick up your cell phone if you're rich enough and wealthy enough to own one. You could pick up a cell phone and call your buddy and say, hey, you should buy this stock. Here's my contact with a stockbroker. Call his phone. And as you can imagine, the percentage of people that held stocks started to increase pretty drastically because of the flow of information and the access to data and the ability to communicate with other people. So fast forward to the 21st century and the market looks completely different, right? So this is a photo of the New York Stock Exchange. Trading doesn't happen on the trading floor anymore. It's completely different, right? And we've got this whole world of apps and data and information. You've got Reddit, you've got X, you've got Webull, ChatGPT, Robinhood, you've got the GameStop craziness, StockTwits, and you've got all of these data and information sources. And this slide is purposefully chaotic because the world has gotten more chaotic, right? There's more data, there's more information, and it's being spread incredibly quickly and incredibly fast. And we also have Bitcoin in the 21st century. So, I'd be remiss if I didn't include any data. So here's retail data. This is the percentage of households with equity and how it's changed over time. So this, going back to the 1600s, obviously data is not very good back from the 1600s, but you can see 0.01% of households held equity, and that's increased all the way up to 61% in 2023. I think that's probably a little bit higher today in 2025. I think that will continue to accelerate as data and information continue to expand and the value of holding assets becomes a lot more apparent. So I've got one more slide here. This is retail as a percent of total volume. So when you think about an equity market or any market and how it works, like how it interacts, you have to understand all of the players that are transacting in the market. And this has evolved and changed over time, right? So you see the percent of retail, so households that are trading as a percentage of the total volume has increased very rapidly. So prior to retail having a big proportion of total volume in the market, the traditional finance markets had an understanding that they knew the players in the game, right? They knew that it's, JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, Charles Schwab, and that the number of people that are playing the game has increased rapidly and they're decentralized. They've got information. They're gathering information from different places. And that fundamentally changes how the interactions in the market work. So it changes how algorithms have to be designed. You have to understand that information flows incredibly fast. We've seen that with GameStop in 2021, right? With the price of GameStop going from $4 to $300 in 2 weeks. And that is continuing to change and continuing to evolve as data and information flow continues to get faster and quicker. So that's led to a very apparent problem: finding the signal in all of the noise. And we know there's a lot of noise, right? We know there is so much noise. Everybody's going to get liquidated. Bitcoin's a Ponzi, all of these people, and including Peter Schiff. It will end with the bankruptcy of MSTR. So, there's so much information, right? Everything's happening so quickly and everybody's trying to figure out the truth, right? Everybody's looking for the truth in all of this noise. So that's led us to this problem, right? We've got this potential for mania and contagion of bewilderment and hysteria. So what do I mean by that? I've got this image here, is outlining, right? For every 100 people, maybe one person understands or knows about Bitcoin. And for every 100 Bitcoiners, maybe 1% or 2% know about MSTR and what they're doing, how they're, evolving finance, evolving securitization of Bitcoin, et cetera, et cetera. So there's confusion, right? There's mass confusion and people don't understand it. They don't like it. It's different from what they've always known. And you see all these, young people, crypto bros making a ton of money. And you're like, I hate it. And I'm going to, battle against it. But, little do they know that this is the strongest capital the world's ever seen. And, the world's getting recapitalized. So that leads us to the solution and MSTR True North and why we're here. So this is, on the right-hand side is a whiteboard image that I had from October 9th, 2024. MSTR price is $188. Bitcoin is at 60,000. And I had this like very strong realization. The price of MSTR was starting to rise again. And it was very clear that we were going to get into a period of price discovery where the price of MSTR is higher than it's ever been. And the price of Bitcoin is higher than it's ever been. And I realized that, oh my God, everybody's going to lose their minds, right? Everybody's going to freak out. There's going to be so much noise. And I said to myself, I need to make a team, right? I was part of the GameStop trade. I watched the Roaring Kitty thing, from start to finish. And I think one of the reasons that it struggled or that it lost some power, not only because they didn't own Bitcoin, but because there's one sole person, right? There was one person that was leading the charge, and there was one person that was in charge of the education. There was one person everybody looked to. And I said, we need to make a team. So I went to my whiteboard. I was like, what does the team look like? Who's the team? Who's front? And I put this team together, and I had everybody had different backgrounds and different perspectives. And that was really important because we needed to have diversity in thought, diversity in their backgrounds, and having, like consulting background. We've got quant background, various different backgrounds. And I sent this document over on the left-hand side. This is the call to action. And you can see I sent it on October 12th. Block height, Bitcoin price, 63,000, and MSTR had gone into price discovery at that point, is at $210. And this is over the weekend. And I said, all right, look, we need to be an unwavering, impenetrable beacon of factual information, like precision and insight. The market needs somebody that they can rely on and trust when they're confused, because there's going to be so much confusion out there. And this is only going to get crazier. Surely everybody responded immediately. They're like, sign me up. I think, Soleil said, this is the coolest squirrel shit I've ever seen before, right? It was like secret squirrel. Yeah. It's like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, sign, like, where do I go? So that was the birth of, MSTR True North. And here's the team, right? So it's myself, Ben, he was like sophistication. He had some, various backgrounds in consulting, and he knew about tech. He knew about AI. He was running, trading platforms. We had Tim. He was the pulse, right? He was the guy in New York that is wearing a suit. We had Grain of Salt, which, as you can imagine, he's the powerful guy. He's the boisterous guy that's, pretty loud. And he called me back in February and said, like, hey, I think you're right. We got Adrian. He's our tech and AI. He's just at the front, quantum computing and quantum mechanics. So he's helpful in that perspective. Soleil, he's the guy that just kept showing up, right? How many episodes have you done? 400? 401 episodes on covered call strategy. He just keeps showing up. It's just incredible work ethic. Dan was running complex options trading strategies. Mason reached out to me and wanted to interview me back in, like, after Quant Bros 1, which was just incredible. I was like, okay, he's at the front. Jesse, who's not here, but he's on our legal team. So he's the one that keeps us a little straight. J64, he helps with our technical infrastructure. He's over in the back. We've got a couple other members of the team, right? Colleen up in the front. She's helped us. She's like our senior project manager. And then we've got Dan Trollstein, like that put together all of this, all these logos, the banners, the, backgrounds on the PowerPoint and the website and everything. So our team is continuing to expand and grow. And so now where are we headed, right? Because everybody's asked me, like, well, okay, what's next, right? And so MSTR True North is actually incorporated. We have a C Corp. So MSTR True North, we have a vision here, and it's going to continue to expand. We've got a media branch and a research branch. So these are kind of separate verticals within MSTR True North. And the media branch can continue to branch out. And I'm thinking of this as like a node of nodes, right? So any other podcast that's in the market could potentially be a part of this True North media branch. We've got research, which we're clearly pretty decent at, and we're going to continue putting out significant research into the market. Then we've got two projects that we're working on under wraps that are pretty quiet for now. I think at some point within the next couple of months, we'll announce what those are. So we've got a lot of energy moving in this direction, and luckily we own our time. So we've got time to build in this space. So I will leave you with this. Everybody in this room right now is an explorer, right? We're all on this journey together. We're exploring, we're navigating the seas of the Bitcoin market. And, you know, in a world of noise and misinformation, MSTR True North is your North Star, right? We are the beacon of truth in navigating the new financial frontier. So thank you very much.